Although the Panthers juggled the lines during their matchup in Detroit, they still have a hard time finishing.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Thursday, October 16th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X at Monoman12. That is Francisco Oporta, Florida Panthers historian, here joining me on the podcast. You can follow him on X at FLA Cats History. Shout out to every day who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONHL for $20 off of your first purchase. You can do that all on Game Time. So the Florida Panthers lose to the Detroit Red Wings by a final score of 4-1 from Little Caesars Arena in a nationally televised game. Second game of their 5-game road trip. And the Panthers, they fall behind 2-0 after a scoreless first period, one of them being on the PK. So, and on a 5-on-3 specifically, the Panthers' PK streak came to an end. The Panthers got it down to a 1-goal deficit before the end of the second period, but the Detroit Red Wings, not giving the Panthers much of their scoring chances in the third period, that we're able to get 2 empty netters, and it's a 4-1 victory for the Detroit Red Wings. And Francisco, the biggest takeaway for the Panthers here is that their odd man rushes the other way continue to be a struggle for them, as I continue to see that you live by the pinch, you die by the pinch, and because of the fact that the forwards play so low, you're not disrupting much on the back check. And Sergei Bobrovsky really truly gave the Panthers a shot in this one. The shots were 9-8 at the end of the first period, but you felt that Detroit got the better of the opportunities for them in this contest.
Yeah, they did. And I mean, if it wasn't for Sergei Bobrovsky, Detroit could have had a lot more chances for sure. They had a lot of odd man rushes, a lot of breakaways as well. And I mean, it's just the way the Panthers play hockey, and we know we've seen this before from them. We've seen it where sometimes, they pinch, and then it can come back to bite them if the team is already prepared and ready for that. But there's another thing I definitely noticed with the Detroit Red Wings, and it was how they got their first 2 goals. Okay, off a face-off, and not possessing the puck too long, trying to get the first shot open that they could get, and it got past Bob, and they didn't allow Bob to actually get set for them. So they were really 2 quick goals, pretty laser goals for the Red Wings to get their first 2 goals. And it seemed like that was the only way that they were going to beat Bob, because every other manner, Bob was the one that kept this team in the game for the most part. But it's just something that we're seeing, and it's also, there's a reason why I'm wearing this practice jersey. Okay, the Panthers are learning right now to play without Alexander Barkov for this entire season, and an extended period of time without Matthew Tkachuk. They've had it in spurts every now and then, but this is the first season in a very long time that they're without Alexander Barkov, who is, of course, probably the best two-way forward in the AHL. Sam Reinhart also as well, but he can't do it by himself. And there's a few things that this team is going to have to learn in order to win games differently as compared to the last couple seasons.
No doubt. And like you mentioned, Sergei Bobrovsky giving the Panthers a chance. Mason Appleton had a breakaway early, and there was a puck directed by Elmer Soderblom in front of the net, and Paul Maurice also went to the line changes pretty early for them. So that's all. He started this game with having Mackie Samoskevich in the top 6. He continued that playing, and then eventually they made that line as Bennett, Boquist, and Samoskevich, which I'll get a little bit more into that a little later. But we saw that line. Sam Reinhart was going to the same line as Evan Rodriguez and Carter Verhaeghe. Okay, it's kind of like a line with in normally when you have Alexander Barkov, just a different player, not nearly as much of the talent and the two-way play that Evan Rodriguez brings. And then there was another one right before the Panthers scored, and they put the Brad Marchand, Eetu, Luostarinen, a Lundell line, and look what happens. A battle along the wall, and then you fail to see the support from the Detroit Red Wings, and then Brad Marchand beats not only Patrick Kane but Cam Talbot on a wraparound chance there, and it's kind of like magic there. But we also kind of saw how these switches for the Panthers with the lines, it really took them they had a hard time creating. I mean, the Corsi percentage for the Panthers over at 53%, but the actual shots on goal for the Panthers, they lost that battle. The amount of block shots that the Detroit Red Wings were having, the lanes were not north-south game, the separation, and you talk about the goals off the faceoff. Look at the patience level that Patrick Kane had off the draw. Murray Sider gets it to him, and then he allows Forsling to at least screen Sergei Bobrovsky, and then it goes off him as well into the net. So it was real. And this season, the Panthers haven't really allowed goals off of cycle chances, but you look at how the Panthers are getting their goals against odd man rushes and then quick snipes after faceoffs in the example of tonight.
Yeah, the Red Wings, they did block a lot of lanes. Ben Sherratt had 5 block shots. And in today's game, he was hurting all over the place. But and there was, especially when they were doing the in-game interview with him, he was very happy with the pressure that Detroit was putting on the Panthers. Remember, the Panthers have a target on the back. Teams are getting up for them, and especially now when they can definitely get some points. Remember, the Red Wings have also been the Panthers' punching bag for the last few seasons, and this is probably at the moment great start to the season so far for Detroit, and they're looking like they're ready. They're trying to finally take this next step in the Yzer plan, and this is a statement win for them because they know that this is a litmus test. Even with the Panthers down Tkachuk, down Barkov, down Kulikov, down Tomas Nosek as well, that game was a grind for the most part, and especially hit a grind in that third period.
No doubt, and you kind of see the battle scars for the Detroit Red Wings in this one. I know they were without Lucas Raymond, but you kind of saw how the amount of years that the core has been together now for them, and now that they've gotten some experience out of their belt, and you look at their schedule of who they face in the first 4 games. I mean, Montreal is a playoff team, Toronto twice, and then Florida. So they've now gotten their feet wet, especially after. I know that it was a rough game 1 for them, but you've seen how the veterans complementing the core pieces for the Detroit Red Wings. You see now that their experience is starting to show, and now they might be ready to start playing these big games. I mean, yeah, like you said, the Panthers do have a target on their back. And I mean, the Panthers were kind of buzzing in the first few minutes of that second period as well, but it's crazy to think what a backbreaking goal could do, and to think that at one point through 12 minutes of the second period, the TNT broadcast showed the graphics. It was 9 scoring chances to nothing. So it's kind of deflating when you're down 2-0 and the scoring chances aren't even in your direction.
Yeah, that second period was completely tilted towards Detroit, and look, that was the period where they were just on and on and on, and then the Panthers really couldn't recover until third period when it became more of a grind, but they still had very few chances in that third period, and ultimately time was just getting away from them, and then 2 empty netters and the game was over.
Yeah, and it's so funny. They had the announcer's curse in the game where they mentioned the power play percentage for the Red Wings against Florida in their last 10 games. They mentioned 1 of 54, and go figure, they score, and the Panthers their PK streak of 12 to start the season comes to an end. But that just just coincidence that happens. But also congratulations to Anton Lundell getting his 100th career assist in his 300th NHL game. And once again, that line scored a goal, and they buzzed all throughout the playoffs. And maybe Paul Maurice will think twice before separating those guys again. So hopefully they stick together. But we're going to transition over to segment number 2, where we're going to discuss our 3 duds of the game and the moment where we knew the game was lost. We'll discuss that more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And the NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down the $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today to get started. Once again, visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today to get started. Segment number 2 here on this Thursday, October 16th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So the Panthers lose once again 4-1 to the Detroit Red Wings, which means we are going to be presenting our 3 duds of the game for this loss for the Panthers. And number 3 dud, I'm going to go with actually head coach Paul Maurice on this one, because the separating of the Lundell line and then putting them back together. But when you think of putting Mackie Samoskevich in the top 6 to start the game, and then switching putting him back with Jesper Boquist and switching him again and putting Sam Bennett and Jesper Boquist on that line, I felt like it defeated the purpose of making that switch to begin with. And I think that him and Verhaeghe would have been a lot better with actually like maybe giving go plays and seeing, especially if they win a battle in their own end and someone's already going out of the zone into the neutral zone. I thought that Paul Maurice did not do really Mackie Samoskevich, especially, any justice in tonight's game. Mackie Samoskevich got 0 shots on goal. And he said that he was talking about how ready he is because of the Panthers knowing his system. So maybe a little bit of an adjustment. But hey, yes, they're without their star players. So this is also an adjustment period for the coach as well. Number 2 dud, excuse me, Uvis Belinskis. So a lot of times I saw that he had a hard time keeping the puck into the Panthers' offensive zone, and one of the main victims of the Panthers giving up the odd man rushes. And then number 1 dud for the Panthers here, Jeff Petrie. He slipped on the ice when the Detroit Red Wings scored that first goal from Mason Appleton that brought them to 1-0, and the Panthers really could have. After that minute and a half of buzzing in the second period, that was just the backbreaking goal to start the game. And the Panthers once again play from behind, second game in a row where they're going into the third trailing. And then Jeff Petrie takes a tripping call late into the third period, which really took out the momentum for the Panthers. But that's not the moment where I knew the game was lost. But that was still a little bit of another kind of turning point for the Panthers. But your 3 duds for this one.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, Petrie was not his best game for sure. Not a fun return to Detroit for him, especially Uvis Belinskis. Yes, he did have a very lackluster, to say the least, game for today. As far as Paul Maurice, I get your reasoning why. I understand why you would say, especially, but I think we're gonna get to, if I can make a comparison to one Eric Spoelstra, Team USA basketball head coach, coming up now. Paul Maurice has to tinker and kind of see what we're doing here, because without your 2 best players from an offensive standpoint, well, at least 2 of the really best. You still got Sam Reinhart, but the Panthers are going to have to figure out what they're doing. And I understand why Palmares made the change, especially to put the Lundell, Marchand, and Luostarinen line back together. He knew it worked, right? He needed to get the team back in the game. It worked pretty much immediately, right away. Marchand scores the wraparound goal. So I understand why Palmares is, yes, putting Mackey on the top six. Let's see what the kid's got. Maybe he was thinking, hey, back here, he played at Michigan, had a bunch of people in the stands, and maybe he was going to get up and have himself a game. Unfortunately, didn't happen today. But as far as, Petrie, Uwis Belinskis, and then, gosh, can we do a tie with Aaron Ekblad and Nico Mikkola? They were on the power play. Goes to a 4-on-4.
Yeah, so at the same time
goes on a 5-on-3. That was pretty much a killer. And you could say, maybe you're already preempting this, but that was probably where the game was lost right then and there as well.
Yeah, when you're 5-on-3 and both of the guys in the box are defensemen, two of your guys in your top four, I was trying to write my notes to as far as that sticking point, and then they scored before I could even finish typing all that. Look at this. This is the key to possibly disaster.
A tripping penalty. All right, maybe Ekblad's stick got caught on the ice and just trips
while on the power play.
But Mikkola, a cross check. You're already down. You're already on the PK. Not very smart, especially given the momentum Detroit was trying to build up. And then, lo and behold, there you go.
Yeah, and Patrick Kane, they even said it on the broadcast. They think that he has a real big chance of being that 13th, 14th forward on Team USA. I mean, he's a legend as far as USA hockey. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, and he buries those a lot. He's done it in his career. He's actually very close to 500 goals for himself. So congratulations on getting closer to that milestone for Patrick Kane. Just hate seeing it getting closer against the Florida Panthers. But the moment where I knew the game was lost for me was actually when the Panthers went on the power play at 3:58. Axel Sandin Pellikka goes to the box for interference after him and Luostarinen were trying to battle it out as far as a race to prevent icing, and the Panthers had a chance on the power play. And like you mentioned, Ben Sherratt was banged and bruised from the amount of block shots. They get him on the hand. A shot goes off his head. The Detroit Red Wings are having a hard time clearing their own end while on the PK in the beginning of the third period. And then towards the end of that power play, when power play 2 is on, you could have had a chance to get even more offensive zone time. And then Jeff Petrie mishandles the puck. And then it creates a little odd man rush by Marco Kasper and Alex DeBrincat, which and to think that when Bob made that save on who was it? It was Sandin Pellikka. That it was from a point, and JT Compher was parked in front. The net was slightly open, and then Bob was able to recover and kick that puck out. I was thinking, remember that save? That was after that moment. But I got a little bit of false hope after that after Bob made that save. But that power play, I even said it a few days ago. Are they overly reliant on it? And you look at the amount of 5-on-5 goals in the last in these first 5 games. The only times it was more than 2 was on Saturday against Ottawa. Most times it was either 1 or none for the Panthers. So 5-on-5 scoring is a problem. But your moment where you knew the game was lost.
Yeah, I already told you that. That 5-on-3 power play for Detroit. It just seemed like that nothing was going right in that second period, and all the momentum was already swinging. And then, the Panthers got a goal with through Marchand with the wraparound, but it still felt once that third period hit, it was just hard to get going, get something moving. The Red Wings, credit to them for playing a very good game. Todd McLellan now with his second year under his belt for this team, and it's looking like they're finally making these strides. They started 3 20-year-olds today as well, and you've got this veteran leadership on them, and it's looking like they're finally starting to put something together. And the Panthers have already look, these teams like Chicago played them pretty hard in the opening game. Philadelphia in the second game, and then the only real blowout was the Ottawa game, and then Philly got up for that game for their home opener, and now Detroit. So you're seeing these young up and coming teams kind of biting the Panthers here. We're hoping like the Panthers are able to turn it on when they're playing playoff caliber teams, and the Red Wings could be a playoff caliber team if they keep going this way. Back to back. Also, we're playing the New Jersey Devils coming up tomorrow. So just gotta have to forget about this game, and then we'll see how things go for tomorrow.
Yeah. So, and it's another home opener that the Panthers will be the road team in tomorrow against the Devils. And once again, if the Red Wings end up making the playoffs, we could actually look back at this game as like early signs of playing those playoff style habits with their veteran leadership and a core that's been around now for a little bit. But we'll transition over to segment number 3, where we'll discuss the timeline for Dmitry Kulikov's injury and some of the roster moves that the Panthers have made in result of that, and discuss Thursday night's game between the Florida Panthers and the New Jersey Devils. We'll discuss that all next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. And hockey season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache. Between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout, it's easy to get frustrated when all you want is to cheer for your team. That's where Game Time comes in. The app gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack to scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. Their zone deals are a game changer. You pick the section, Game Time picks your seat, and then you save big. You can find NHL tickets for under $25. Take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Segment number 3 here on this Thursday, October 16th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Thursday, here with Florida Panthers historian Francisco Oporta, to discuss everything with the Florida Panthers on this night with their 4-1 loss against the Detroit Red Wings. And now it's time for the Panthers to quickly turn it around, as they will be visiting the New Jersey Devils at the Rock for their home opener on Thursday night. But we do have a little bit of news, and it's not great news for the Panthers. It's gone from bad to worse, and Barkov out a significant amount of time. Tkachuk, Nosek, and then it's Dmitry Kulikov now. Had surgery on Wednesday morning for a torn labrum in his shoulder. So he is going to be out, Paul Maurice said, 5 months. And you're looking at 5 months from now, you're looking at maybe like March area for Dmitry Kulikov to be back. And this is big. This has been a staple on the third line. He's been a mentor for the rotating piece, and now that part is gone. And now you have now you're going to have even more moving parts in this for the Panthers third pair. And now we've seen the depth tested already with center with the bottom six, although bottom six once again did not give up a goal at 5-on-5 tonight for the Panthers. But it's another test where you're going to see a rotating cast between them. Tobias Bjornfoot is already with the club. Does he get a game for the Panthers? But they've also claimed Donovan Sebrango off of waivers from the Ottawa Senators, who's part Cuban, actually. Shout out to Al Montoya, another fellow Cuban who got to play with the Panthers. But that's going to be that the Panthers. It's going to be more trial and error as this season goes on, and we're not even in Game 6 of the season.
Yeah, man. Zito's gonna have to work the darkest of his magic in order to really pull this one out here. And yeah, the Panthers are. We're gonna see. We're gonna see. They just saw the Ottawa Senators, and I guess they liked what they were seeing. They just claimed this guy off of waivers. So we'll see what that Bjorn Fort's up. And like I said, this is all mixing and matching, and we're gonna see what works. I guess the idea is just weather this storm as much as possible. Get in as one of those wild card spots if you're not threatening for any of those division spots. And then hopefully the people get healthy at the right time, which would be really scary for a lot of
Yeah.
teams. So the Panthers are a bottom team, let's say a final wild card spot, and they're facing a number one seed. That's like, wait a second, we're not. This isn't really a number one seed or final seed that we're really facing here. I don't know, the '99 New York Knicks, and they were entering the NBA final or NBA playoffs as the final seed, and they really were just a team that was injured, and they got the Miami Heat that season, unfortunately, who were the number one seed. So maybe it'll work in the reverse end if the Panthers can kind of, weather this storm. And I mean, it's unfortunate, an impact injury. I don't know if it's still a bit of wear and tear. I'm not a medical professional, and I guess I thought, yeah, maybe some wear and tear over the course of 3 straight Stanley Cup Finals runs also could be a factor in some of these injuries for these guys, because it's a lot of hockey being played for a long time, and something's got to give. But I'm not a medical professional, so please don't listen to me about that. I'm just speculating on what I'm seeing, and it's just sad. It's just sad and unfortunate. But hey, this team has been through a ton over the course of these last 3 to 4 years now, and this is, if they're going to try and do this, then why not make it the sweetest by making it the hardest?
Yeah, that they even say it in their opening media availabilities during media day. It's like every year gets harder, and it's even with guys who weren't part of the run last year. You see that logo across from them, they're going to give you your best, and that's really where it's once again no nights off for this Panthers team, and that's going to be really truly difficult. And you know what? Like I said it, I even said it myself. I was looking forward to the regular season to see what kind of answers we would be getting from the Panthers depth. As you know, right now this was the record that I'm not surprised at when you look at 3-2-0 for this Panthers team, and all like look at all the games, even in these 2 losses, you'll see a goal differential by more than 3 in each of these games. But you look at the box score and you look at close ones, and the Panthers getting the empty net out, the extra attacker on with the empty net, and still giving themselves a chance. So it's not, Panthers haven't been blown out even in these 2 losses. So that's the encouraging part here. Although there are no more victories in hockey here, and it's still 0 points out of the 4 in the last 2 games. But other moves that the Panthers have made, the Charlotte Checkers have signed Tyler Mott to a professional tryout. He was with the Panthers during during training camp, so he does get a chance with the Florida Panthers organization. So in another opportunity. And Noah Gregor not listed on the Panthers roster as far as the media site. So is he going to be placed on waivers soon? So we will see on that. So the Panthers have to turn it around, like we mentioned. New Jersey Devils will have their home opener on Thursday night. So it's been a up and down for the New Jersey Devils. They lose in Carolina, and they win in Tampa Bay and in Columbus. So 2 playoff teams, and then one who was on the bubble of the playoffs. And New Jersey didn't really have a fair shot at the playoffs last year. Everyone was counting them out before their series against Carolina begun because of the injuries that they had. Jack Hughes with the shoulder injury. They're without Jonathan Kovacevic. I really do love their blue line. If number 2 overall pick Simon Nemec is on your third pair, you have a pretty good situation there. And Luke Hughes, not necessarily resetting the defense market, but with him and Jackson Lacombe and this new wave of defensemen that are coming through, he is definitely a beneficiary there but that also could mean this could be Dougie Hamilton's last year in New Jersey, as now the clauses have changed his contract, and also an aging Andre Palat, Stanley Cup champion Andre Palat. So this is the team that lots of people are very high on, but they're going to be without former Panther Jacob Markstrom for a little bit. So the Panthers are likely expected to see Jake Allen between the pipes. So he has a record of 3-8-0 against the Panthers, 870 save percentage. So this could be the type of a good bounce back game for the Panthers here.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunate for Markey to be out, but hey, the Panthers coming up here, and I mean, last season I think they played pretty well on the second night of a back to back. They always seem to have some giddy up, regardless. So maybe they can work out some kinks and see if they can take advantage of some mistakes by New Jersey. Maybe they can get at least the second leg of this back to back here and try and get a win on this road trip, because it's going to be very important. It's a long road trip already. They're going to play later on. And of course, they play Boston to finish out this road trip. So you want to get a couple victories under your belt before you head into TD Garden, where the Panthers are still technically the owners of that arena.
It's going to be an emotional night next Tuesday for sure, as Brad Marchand is expected to get a video tribute. But Devils did go 2-1-0 against the Panthers last year. There was that series that they had in November. The highlight of that series was the two fights that Jonah Gadjevich got into with Curtis McDermott, who's now on the Ottawa Senators, and then Brandon Dillon, who's still with the New Jersey Devils there. Bennett was out for a little bit. Jesper Brokus actually showed out quite a bit in that series, 2 straight home games for the Panthers. The Panthers will have something similar to that this year when they visit Pittsburgh, 2 straight games against them, except both of them are on a back-to-back. One of those starts was actually a Jake Allen start last year for the Devils. But Jesper Bratt is a problem, man. This guy is good. Nico Hischier, their best defensive forward, is on their second line. But this New Jersey Devils team, great blue line, top 6 is outstanding. But I really just like the Panthers in their bottom 6. That's where the Panthers could possibly expose them. But New Jersey, with the last change, could possibly avoid those matchups.
Yeah, I mean, the Devils, it's been an interesting last few years for that team, right? People have kind of been labeling them the next best thing coming up here with a nice young core. It seemed like they were putting it together, but it just seems like injuries and just underplaying has gotten to them over the last few seasons. They haven't been able to reach that potential that they had a couple seasons back now, but it's going to be a hard-fought game. Definitely, they're going to be up. They know the Panthers are on the second night of back-to-back, and so they're going to try and push and pressure early on in that game. I'm going to expect a lot from them, but with Tarasov likely going for the Panthers, and who's already looked really good thus far in the season, despite everything that happened in Philly, it wasn't him, especially in that game, and of course had a fantastic preseason too. I'm looking forward to seeing his second game. Nova Kuznets' finest right there. We got the 2 boys from there, so it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun seeing that.
Yeah, you pronounced that hometown of Sergei Bobrovsky and Danil Tarasov a lot better than I could. So credit to you there. So yeah, let's see if the Panthers could find a way to win in a Danil Tarasov start, stop the bleeding a little bit, and also bank those points and continue to. Also, and other players who are out, former Panther Evgeny Dodonov, it won't be playing for the Devils, and also South Florida native Seamus Casey, who played for the AAA Alliance in Estero. He won't be part of the blue line for the New Jersey Devils tomorrow. So a lot of people out for New Jersey, a lot of people out for Florida as well. So who takes advantage of this in this matchup on Thursday night? But Francisco, I want to thank you so much once again for joining me on today's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Tell everybody where they can find you online and what kind of speculation now that you've been putting out there for possible sweaters that the Panthers could be wearing in early January.
So at FLA Cats History, that's on X. I'm also on Instagram and everything like that. I've been watching the video version of this. It's been rolling in the background as well. And I do Marlins history. I haven't touched Dolphins history. I made that, but I'm not going to touch that right now. Things are just really sad, and the Heat are coming up later on. But I have been speculating because we're now getting close to the Winter Classic, and we're getting close to a point where the Panthers are going to have to reveal that Winter Classic jersey so they can start making some merch sales. And I'm really curious as to where they're going to go with this. South Florida hockey history isn't long, but it is there. And there's the long time ago, the Tropical Hockey League back in the 1930s, 4 teams out in Miami Beach, Coral Gables as well. One of the teams is called the Coral Gables Seminoles, which messes with my brain right there and then. But it's pretty exciting. There's not many photos that I've been trying to scrounge the internet for photographs of their uniforms and see where they could pick and choose some elements from those jerseys. And of course, there's other hockey history. The Miami Screaming Eagles were supposed to play in the WHA. Even Bernie Parenta, rest in peace, was supposed to be the goaltender for that Miami team. And of course, he became a South Florida resident later on in his life as well. But there's some history there. There was a prototype jersey. They might pick and choose from that. And then you've got some teams that played in some minor leagues in Miami at the Miami Arena, former home of the Panthers. You had the Miami Matadors. You had the Miami Manatees as well. Or the Panthers could try and do a faux back, maybe a nod to their 2009 alternate uniform in red, maybe some elements of that. They did that a bit with the reverse retro with the stick and tree as the crest before. Who knows? There's all kinds of elements that they're going to probably look for, or just something else. Maybe a Miami Hurricanes or Miami Dolphins or Marlins reference of some sort. I don't know. They could use this that I'm wearing on my head. I'm not even sure. And you're wearing beautifully on this shirt there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what my speculation is. But I also do want to say happy birthday to you, Armando. Thank you for having me on the show. You're a really great friend. I'm glad we're colleagues and also friends outside of this. And yeah, hope you have a great birthday.
Thank you. Didn't come with a win, but hey, I got to spend it with two of my favorite content creators here. You today recording this, and then Jacob Winans this morning. And wow, Miami Matadors mentioned the tenant for the Miami Arena after the Florida Panthers left. So that was a surprise there to hear that. But hey, we will see what happens in the future for those sweaters. But Francisco, thank you so much as always, and I will see you again very soon.
All right.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows in the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone, and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with Francisco Oporta. And you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're your team every day.